Last year, the Ivory Coast, the African Nations Cup holders. Tomorrow it's the final of this prestigious competition when Argentina plays Saudi Arabia. Tonight's match and tomorrow's final kicking off at 8:30 local time. Here come the teams. The USA on the left-hand side. Number 17, Marcelo Balboa will prop up the heart of the defence. Normally this stadium holds about 70,000 fans, but it's just a quarter full for tonight's game. Both sides have been forced into major changes, if not major restructuring. The USA have lost John Harkes, Tab Ramos and Roy Wegerle, who've all had to return home to their respective European club sides. Added to their problems, Brian Quinn is suspended after his sending off in the first match. It's a similar problem for the Ivory Coast. 3 changes for them, either enforced or designed. They've ripped out 3/4 of their midfield. Gatticelli, Cassi and Maggie all missing from their starting lineup tonight, which will give you in just a moment's time. And Sababua is suspended after his sending off against Argentina for a second cautionable offence. So tonight's third and fourth place playoff game, the Ivory Coast against the USA.
Not long ago, the U.S. national team wasn't exactly causing the soccer world to lose any sleep. But that's changed, because now the U.S. has the players they need, they have the coaching they need. Hey, they're even wearing the same equipment as those incredibly good European teams. I mean, what else could these guys possibly need to make soccer really big here in America? That ought to do it.
Come on, 1 inch farther. Let's go.
Fahd Cup. Let's check on the two teams. Tony Meola plays in goal for the USA. The centre of their defence, Mike Lapper, who had a good game the other night. Alongside him, Marcelo Balboa from Colorado Foxes. He wins his 63rd cap. At right back, Paul Caligiuri, who scored the goal which gave the USA qualification for the 1990 World Cup, and that's the man who plays at left back, Fernando Clavijo. Coming into the side, Janusz Mikalik in midfield. On the right-hand side, Bruce Murray, USA's most capped player. On the left, it's Chris Henderson. And between them, Hugo Perez, born in San Salvador. Up front, Peter Vermes wins his 53rd cap. Eric Wijnaldum has arrived with a squad from club football in the Bundesliga in Germany. Confirmation of the substitutes, but John Harkes and Roy Wegerle, of course, can't compete in this match because they are returned to Europe. So, check on the Ivory Coast. Guamani plays in goal for them. Aka Kwame plays at right back. Diaby will play at the heart of the defence. Lignon plays at left back. Cassina is switched into midfield, an unusual role for him. Lou Réfin plays in defence. Ibrahim, number 4, plays on the left-hand side of midfield. Oliver Sia plays in midfield too. Ben Salah leads the attack. Traoré is their principal source of hope. Bergri Yago comes into the side too. Bergri Yago, a striker from last season's Cup winners, Africa Sports. So, the USA with those 4 changes, Vermes, Caligiuri, Mikalik and Wijnaldum, drafted into their side. It's the USA in the white playing from left to right in the first half to get us underway. This the first ever meeting of the two countries in this third and fourth playoff game. Perez. Early touch for Caligiuri. Lapper. 2 here is Mikalik. Great determination in the United States team to put behind them their 3-0 defeat by Saudi Arabia in the opening match of this competition, which caused so much excitement in this King Fahd International Stadium. It's quite a different atmosphere tonight. Only about 2,000 or 3,000 have come to see this game. I think the USA team will probably find it less intimidating, that's for sure. But in terms of opposition, the Ivory Coast might be just as difficult. That'll be a goal kick, which Miola will take. Bergliago with that forceful run, and able to put over any sort of cross into the penalty area. Well, the Ivory Coast have had the lion's share of play in the opening minute and a half of the game. The USA have hardly had the ball inside that Ivory Coast half of the field. Kwame on the far side. Plenty of options ahead of him, including a run by Briem. Oh, this is the sort of football that the Ivory Coast showed in the African Nations Cup in Dakar. The pass slightly overhits, but the intention was plain to cut a swathe through the United States defence. Clavillo. Balboa unable just to flick it on. And once again, the United States give the ball back to the Ivory Coast. It was a similar story in the opening match against Saudi Arabia. Interesting to note, Ben Salah, number 8 on the far side, playing on the right-hand side of midfield in this match. He led the attack with Traore in the match against Argentina. Not normally noted as a wide player, normally likes to be a front man and uses speed in a direct path towards the opposition goal rather than trying to break in behind the defence. Wijnaldum trying to use his pace. This is Murray now. He's stolen into the penalty area. And that was a brave save by Guamini. That's the first time that Wijnaldum has been involved for the USA. Very much a star in the Bundesliga, Eric Wijnaldum. Heading 5 goals of Saarbrücken's 7 this season. Kwame now bringing the ball forward for the Ivory Coast. Still 0-0. 4 minutes of the match have elapsed. The USA should be buoyed on by that early attack, which Wijnaldum managed to exert. That promises to be one of the brighter features of the game, the link-up between Bruce Murray on the right-hand side and Eric Wijnaldum. Mikalik. Murray. Lassina did his job ever so well to win the ball for the Ivory Coast, and that's a clever little back heel. Sia dragging it wide. That one headed clear by Mikalik, who's been given the job of taking over from Brian Quinn in this team. Brian Quinn, of course, suspended. Mikalik will anchor the midfield for the USA. This time he has possession inside the Ivory Coast half of the field. And the USA caught offside. To Argentina, had a hardly impressive record over the last 12 months. Ben Salah. Aka Kwame, the captain. Acting captain tonight. In the absence of Gadjicelli. Well, that's great acceleration to put the USA defence under pressure. They're queuing up in the middle. Got away by Lapa. And the United States are going to have to watch the acceleration and physical strength of the Ivory Coast down their flanks. This is Wijnaldum. Looking for Murray. Ben Salah. We've had nearly 6 minutes of the game. The Ivory Coast 0, the USA 0. Kelly Jury. Winalda. Almost an impressive link-up between Vermes and Winalda then. Aka Gwami brings it clear again. The right back screws it into the path of Diaby Sekena. Plenty of lateral movement about this Ivory Coast attack. 4 is Bruce Murray, the most capped USA player of all time. Perez. The referee allows play to go on here. Lassina. Oh, that's an interesting chip. Miolia had to be aware of the danger then. Lassina has given up his left back berth, which he occupied in the match against Argentina, to take over a left midfield role for the Ivory Coast in this match. But he spotted the USA goalkeeper off his line and tried his luck. Why not? Here's Chris Henderson then for the USA. Still 0-0. 7.5 minutes into the game in this third and fourth playoff match. And the USA caught offside. And it'll be a free kick to the Ivory Coast. Diaby, wide to Kwame. It's a long, hopeful ball. Headed clear by Balboa. Well, that's a poor pass, intercepted with some ease by Lignon. The Ivory Coast offside. Good job too, as far as the USA were concerned. Sia will try and make his presence felt in this game. That's certainly isn't the gentleman who was captioned. It was in fact Bura Milutinovic, the coach of the USA, who by all accounts wasn't too happy with his side's defeat to Saudi Arabia. Still goalless then. Murray flicks that one on, looking for Winalda. There's a bit of movement about that USA attack. Perez! Oh, it's a tremendous shot by Perez. Rasping drive. It's perhaps indicative that the USA have been unable to get behind the Ivory Coast too many times, that they're shooting from that sort of range. It really was a well-struck effort by Hugo Perez, looking for his 11th international goal. Bensella. Sia. Refa. Traore forcing the ball wide, and then Kwame quick to respond. Sia. Diaby. Intelligent pass. Chris Henderson's gone very deep for that ball. But plenty of options here for the USA. That's a good header by Bruce Murray. And that really was an atrocious pass by Winalda. The USA really have to be cautious about these loose balls that they're giving away. They've already conceded 3 cheap goals against Saudi Arabia. They don't want to concede any more here in Riyadh, as Wijnaldum's forced exceptionally wide and claims he was fouled. Costa Rican official awards the USA the free kick. Caligiuri will take it, and the USA have all their tall players waiting on the 18-yard box. Hint of offside. Is that going to count? It is. They look to the linesman's flag, and it's the big central defender, Marcelo Balboa, who makes it 1-0 to the USA. And the Ivory Coast look towards the linesman as if to say, why was there no flag? It's his 6th international goal. We're 12 minutes in and the USA have the lead. Here's a free kick again. And any of 4 USA players could have put that one in. The marking was non-existent by the Ivory Coast. And Marcelo Balboa can't have scored an easier goal. It was almost something from the practice ground, wasn't it? Meanwhile, at the other end, Miola's complaining about the covering in front of him. One or two smiles down on that USA bench now. They'll be pleased with that goal, their first here in Saudi Arabia in this tournament. One-nil then to the USA. Sia. Lassina. Goal kick to the United States of America. And this man and his goal separates the two teams at the moment.
What the airlines did for...
There was a foul on Wijnaldum by the white-shirted players are caught deep inside offside country. Kwame. Well, that really was a peculiar clearance by Caligiuri, and a player of his sort of experience shouldn't be giving away free kicks like that. Hopelessly mistimed his jump, and the ball struck his upper arm to allow the Ivory Coast this free kick. Even the royal family thought that was amusing. So all 11 USA players back in and around their own penalty area as Ben Salah lines himself up to strike this free kick at the USA goal. The Ivory Coast trailing 1-0. But not for long. They've scored and are back in this game, and it's a shot which Miola should have saved. Traore on target, the man who hit 3 goals against Botswana in a World Cup qualifier last Sunday, and he's brought the African contingent to their feet. It's the Ivory Coast one, the USA one. Traore, the man on target. It wasn't a particularly well-struck free kick. Traore screwed it round, and Miola really should have pushed that one away for a corner. The marking is slightly suspect here, but the shot wasn't that well struck. 1-1. Well, that should give the game a different complexion. But it's all you could ask for, a third and fourth place playoff game. 2 goals in the opening 15 minutes. And both teams now with something to be encouraged about. Oh, that's well played. Traore again. And the wild shooting which was in evidence against Argentina. Once again in evidence in this third and fourth place match. There really is a fruitless willingness to shoot from anywhere by some of the Ivory Coast players. One feels they would try a shot from their edge of their own penalty area if they thought it would work. Martal, the coach of the Ivory Coast, will be slightly happier with proceedings. First African trainer to win the African Nations Cup in nearly 10 years. The USA temporarily down to 10 men, with Ronaldo having to leave the field just to rearrange his footwear. And that's why the flick on by Vermes was nowhere near another white-shirted player. Diaby. Murray wins it back. Kwame. Kwame again has brought the ball a long way. Wide to Ben Salah. They're queuing up in the middle, including Sia. It's a shame he didn't have a left foot. Sia was the target man, and as the ball was played to the back post, why on earth he tried to screw it in with his right foot, heaven only knows. The worrying aspect in this game for the USA is how many times the Ivory Coast have broke down the wings and got into the dead ball line. Diaby. Kwame. Sia again, the target man. Good covering tackle there to get the ball out of play. Paul Carey-Jury was responsible for that. Slight delay while the ball is retrieved from the running track which surrounds this impressive stadium, which not only houses a very impressive football field but 2 hospitals, royal enclosure, very impressive press centre, fully equipped television studio, and for tonight's game the Ivory Coast and the USA. There'll be a slight break in play while Chris Henderson receives some attention for that clash of heads involving Kone Briem. There's that instant again, the clash of heads to the back of Henderson's head. Henderson's father, incidentally, was a semi-professional baseball player, and that must have felt like a baseball bat on the back of your head. Incidentally, the officials here in Saudi Arabia have been quite insistent that no physiotherapists be allowed on the field, that any player has to be stretchered off to receive any medical attention.
There's a hunger inside you.
Dad, I can do it. Snickers Bar, the official snack food sponsor of the 1992 U.S. Olympic team. Packed with fresh roasted peanuts, thick milk chocolate, and caramel, Snickers satisfies the hunger inside you.
There's a hunger inside.
Dad, I did it.
Hunger inside you.
Not long ago, the U.S. national team wasn't exactly causing the soccer world to lose any sleep. But that's changed, because now the U.S. has the players they need, they have the coaching they need. Hey, they're even wearing the same equipment as those incredibly good European teams. I mean, what else could these guys possibly need to make soccer really big here in America? That ought to do it.
Henderson marking his man. Did not get a handle on it. Crossing ball, saved Miola, and he stays over the line.
Tony Miola has done it again.
Hi, I'm Tony Miola, goalkeeper for the United States World Cup team, and these are my friends from the Youth Soccer Association. Youth soccer is for everyone. It's easy to play, it's healthy, and most of all, it's fun. So get involved in the Youth Soccer Association because it's the game for kids.
Yeah!
For more information on your local Youth Soccer Association, call 1-800-4SOCCER.
Hi, I'm Zach Rebikoff. You've seen my initial TV announcements, but now I need to give you a pro-image umpiring update. The SOS program has succeeded in bringing cash earnings to New York City high school students, and it's even expanded its number of programs in the area. With the tremendous interest from parents as well, we're now opening our umpire training to adults too. There's a tremendous need for baseball officials at all levels, with as much as $25 to $90 per game as the payoff. Give us a call and find out how you can become an umpire today.
Diaby. Under intense pressure. Oh, Lassina's almost given it away. Handball, free kick, right on the edge of the penalty area now to the USA. And that really was a cheap free kick to give away by Sekana. Guameni waiting expectantly on his goal line. And we've reached the midway point of the first half. Ivory Coast 1, the USA 1. Perez standing over the ball. Caligiuri to his right, that's flicked in well by Perez. Good curvature on that free kick. In fairness, Guameni had it well and truly covered. But whilst most of the crowd, and indeed the US team, were expecting a ball flighted to the back post, Perez decided to curl one in and test the reflexes of Guameni in the Ivory Coast goal. Guameni goes the return and has got it too. Problems here for the USA. The quality of the header on the near post wasn't at all good enough to trouble the USA defence. This looks a promising break by Wijnaldum if he can just get up after his half stumble. And the throw-in goes the way of the USA. Wijnaldum wants to take the throw-in quickly. Vermes up in support. .20 here is Caligiuri. Perez. Caligiuri again, it was not a particularly good pass, the sort of pass that often results in injury, to be honest. It invited the tackle from the Ivory Coast defender. That's a corner. Ben Salah, number 8. This time pressed back into defensive duties for the Ivory Coast. Another corner. Unspectacular but intelligent defending by Lignon. The man who played against Cameroon in the African Nations Cup semi-final. Number 12 on the near post. Balboa up to cause Ivory Coast maximum amount of damage. Lignon got his head first to the ball, but The USA have the Ivory Coast press back into their own half of the field. Clavijo. They're offside. And it was this man who was furthest forward. As Clavijo delivered that ball forward, it was almost like the start of a 100-meter sprint. But they went too early before the gun and were caught offside, and the Ivory Coast have possession. 20 minutes to half-time, still 1-1. It's been an open game of football. So you'd hope in a third and fourth place playoff game. Again, Chris Henderson is injured here. And once again, they're indicating it's a head injury. Ben Salah was involved in that, number 8. Some concern now on the touchline about the state of health of Chris Henderson. Who looks like he's on his way to the outpatients department of the local hospital. Let's hope it's not that serious, as the American team doctor tries to sort out the problem. The USA temporarily down to 10 players. Kobe Jones just warming up just outside your picture for the USA. Ben Salah first to react to win that ball back for the Ivory Coast. Lignon. Ben Salah. He really has been a tricky customer to mark because he's switched in from the right-hand side of midfield and is playing just behind the front two of the Ivory Coast. And that's made marking him such a real handful, and that's an awful tackle by Diaby, and the American players absolutely furious with Diaby about that challenge. Not dissimilar to the one that had Brian Quinn sent off, and this time Diaby only shown the yellow card. The American coach is just indicating that. And now disappointing news for the US team. Chris Henderson unable to continue in this match, and Kobe Jones about to come on for them. So Kobe Jones comes on. Ironically, both he and Chris Henderson went to the same college, the UCLA. So I'm sure Kobe Jones feeling a good deal of sympathy for his former college friend. It was Lapper who got forward there. I remember Mike Lapper struck the crossbar in the opening match against Saudi Arabia. Desperately unlucky not to score a goal for the USA. Lovely turn there by Lassina now. Can he put over a cross? Good covering tackle by Caligiuri. The USA have an unusual defensive formation insofar that Caligiuri and Clavijo, the two fullbacks, are virtually interchangeable. And if there's a problem for the USA, the left back is happy to come across to the right back area of the field to cause more problems for the attacking side. It really is an un-European tactic, but it seems to work for the USA. Means that when I spoke to Brian Quinn prior to the kickoff, the USA player who is suspended, when I asked him which side Caligiuri and which side Clavijo would be playing in the respective fullback berths, he said it hardly matters. Winalda. Balboa. Ivory Coast squeeze play. And they do it very effectively too. Winalda caught offside. Ben Salah. this time operating on the right-hand side and able to get the better of Perez. Incidentally, the USA have made a tactical change since the departure of Chris Henderson. They're playing Kobe Jones, the substitute, on the right-hand side of midfield, and switched Bruce Murray, ostensibly a right-footed player, over to the left side. That would indicate that Murray might fancy his chances of cutting inside and letting rip with a right-footed shot. Don't expect to see Murray go wide down the left too many times. Mikalik. That was probably the most obtuse offside trap I've ever seen. Play was squeezed into about a 5-yard strip right in front of the player trying to deliver the through ball, Mikalik, whose only option might have been just to hook the ball up in the air and chase after it. Good cross by the captain. And if one of these two sides is pressing forward in numbers, it's the Ivory Coast now, with the USA happy to employ tactics of containment and counter-attack. And here they come again. Kobe Jones! What a goal! A quite outrageous strike by the substitute, who's only been on the field a few minutes. And whilst they all waited for the cross, Kobe Jones set his sights on the goal. Once again, the Ivory Coast questioned the linesman about a possible offside. But how about this for a cool piece of finishing? The goalkeeper actually showed him the goal, and Kobe Jones says thanks a lot. It's Kobe Jones' first ever goal for the USA. He's on his way shortly to France to have a trial with Lens there. I'm sure they'll be impressed if they see pictures of that goal. And maybe that little switch by the USA in midfield by putting Kobe Jones on the right-hand side has made an impact. But it's worth saying that both goals that the USA have scored have been debatable offside decisions, when twice now the Ivory Coast have looked to the linesman and the linesman hasn't raised his flag. Well, you may recall that the Ivory Coast scored from a free kick in a similar position after 15 minutes of the game. It was when they got their equaliser. They look for a second equaliser now, with the USA leading by 2-1. And the USA, who've won just 5 internationals from a possible 22 this year, have their noses in front. But for how long? Ben Salah standing over the ball. We can expect a thunderous free kick from him. The referee insistent that the wall retreats 10 yards. It's a direct free kick. It's right into the US wall. And that really is meat and drink to Tony Meola. And that is Chris Henderson, who still is receiving treatment down on the running track. Perez. Perez is onside again. Hooked into the middle, Vermes. Oh, that's a horrible miss by Wijnaldum. Vermes did everything right then. And Wijnaldum aiming for the bottom Left-hand corner as he looked at that Ivory Coast goal. Really should have tied the game up at 3-1. Another clever little pass into Perez here. That's Vermes, and Wijnaldum shrugs it wide. Well, the USA creating plenty of opportunities, and then another one here. Vermes. Scored in the United States last win, a 2-0 success over Canada. And these are difficult times for the Ivory Coast. They've fallen 2-1 behind. They've had their fair share of controversial goals in this Intercontinental Championship for the King Fahd Cup. Diaby. Sia ran into a dead end.
Going to call the most this month?
Most? Good question.
Isabel. With Sprint's new program, The Most, first, you get 20% off whoever you call the most each month. Second, you get 20% off calls to any of the millions of other Sprint customers automatically.
Sprint interrupts this commercial for a special announcement. An independent consumer group has announced that of unrestricted plans, The Most from Sprint often offers the best savings with the fewest restrictions.
The fascination always existed. The human body, without doubt, is the greatest of inventions. Flawless in design, capable of astonishing feats. Amazingly, the harder the body is worked, the stronger, more beautiful it becomes. To unlock your body's potential, we proudly offer Soloflex. 32 old-fashioned iron-pumping exercises, each correct in form and balance, all on a machine that fits in the corner of your home. Soloflex, simple and efficient, like the body itself, which may explain why it looks less like a machine and more like a work of art. For a free brochure, call anytime.
From the neutrals' point of view, it would be very acceptable for the Ivory Coast to get an equaliser now before half-time to set this match up for an interesting second half. Akakwami has almost retreated outside the stadium to take this long throw. And that's good goalkeeping by Miola. And he sets the USA off on the counter-attack again. It's tactic which they've enjoyed so far, allowing Ivory Coast to bring the ball to them and then trying to break it field quickly and effectively, and that's a foul on Hugo Perez. And a rather nasty foul too, which has incurred the wrath of several USA players. And another. Sia was the defending player.
On the road again. Introducing American Road, a great new collection that hits you where you live.
Americana. 18 wheels and a dozen roses. Smoky Mountain rain keeps on falling. The bluest skies of Texas. Lord, I ain't been home in years. Got the Highway 40 blues. Now It's a long, hard road.
American Roads features 40 great hits. It'll make you feel good. Here's how to order.
Call toll-free 1-800-238-3100. That's 1-800-238-3100. Or send $19.95 for 3 LPs or 3 cassettes, or $24.95 for 2 CDs plus $4 shipping to American Roads, P.O. Box 4670, Omaha, Nebraska, 68104.
Just when you need them most, your windshield wipers don't work. Can't anyone make a decent windshield wiper? Introducing the one and only Triple Edge wiper blades from Lifetime Automotive. Triple Edge, with patented 3-edge design, clears, cleans, wipes dry, all in a single pass. Triple Edge Lifetime wipers are made from DuPont Nordell, the same space-age material used in 50,000-mile radial tires. It's so strong, we guarantee these wipers for as long as you own your car, truck, or van. Triple Edge gives you visibility through the heaviest downpour. It whisks away snow and ice. Even mud is no match for Triple Edge. Triple Edge installs in seconds on most cars, vans, or trucks, foreign or domestic. They're only $19.95 a pair, custom fit for your car's make and model. Triple Edge, now available at most stores where auto supplies are sold.
For home delivery, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-532-5959. 1-800-532-5959. Order now.
So the free kick floated in by Caligiuri. Foul by Murray. Coming in on the far side. That's the left-hand side of midfield. Traore. Brahim. Ivory Coast caught offside. That wouldn't have counted had the ball been put in. And we've 6 minutes now to go to half-time. Perez, thankfully for the USA, has recovered from that challenge by Sia. Three is Lapa. Perez. Ben Salah leads the counter-attack. The USA have a player injured deep inside the Ivory Coast half of the field. Ben Salah goes the return. They're queuing up in the middle. And that rather luckily for the USA rebounded back off Ben Salah. And out of play for a goal kick. As he whipped over the cross, the ball struck a USA defender and back off Ben Salah. And there are less than 5 minutes to go to half-time. 1-2, the USA lead. This is Murray. A little bit of space perhaps for the shots. Caligiuri. Winalda, Caligiuri again. What a lovely deep cross that was. Delivered by Kobe Jones. But he has to get back now because the Ivory Coast have got the ball. And they have plenty of men forward. Ben Salah again, their principal source of hope. Murray, oh, there's oceans of space here for the USA if they can stay onside. Winalda just couldn't. Ben Salah, Traore. They get that sudden rush of blood to the head. Dominic Kinnear is going to come on here for the USA. I wonders whether they can delay that substitution before half-time. I wonder if Perez has tried to go back onto the field to shrug off that injury which he picked up. Perez at the moment just looks a pace behind the game, and he has been one of the USA's most effective contributors in the opening 42 minutes of the match. Diaby. Nasina helping it forward. Unable to find Traore. So yeah, foul by Lapa. It all got just a bit too tight for the USA then. But the Ivory Coast possess some very talented players with exceptional skill who operate very effectively in those sort of situations and are always going to win free kicks by their clever footwork. Diaby forward from the back for the Ivory Coast. Still 2-1 behind. Miola's after this one. And Miola has made contact with one of his own players. His Royal Highness just explaining the finer points of the game, but the USA bench is beginning to resemble a hospital waiting area now, with so many players picking up injuries in the first half. This time it's Bruce Murray who's clutching his head. But Murray is made of stern stuff and wants to carry on. And it's the stretcher bearers who leave the field first rather than Murray. Free kick then to the Ivory Coast. We're in stoppage time now at the end of the first half. The USA move out to a man to catch the Ivory Coast offside. In fact, Murray has left the field. One suspects he has some sort of cut to his face which might require stitching. Murray's back on. The USA's complement of players backed up to 11. That's a great ball back to Murray. Perez couldn't get anywhere near it. He really is struggling with that groin or upper thigh injury now as the USA bring it forward with Ben Salah. Played in here towards Sia. And at half-time, the USA lead by 2-1. It's been a good first half for the United States of America team. They've decided to sit back and allow the Ivory Coast to bring the game to them. But they took the lead early on through Marcelo Balboa with that splendid header from a free kick. Well-worked free kick too. They had the lead inside 12 minutes. The Ivory Coast ball levelled when Traore picked up a loose ball inside the USA penalty area and beat Miola, who should have kept it out. But Kirby Jones, a first-half substitute for the USA, who's come on for Chris Henderson, has restored the USA's lead with a well-struck shot after cutting in on the right-hand side. The half-time score in this third and fourth place playoff game in the Intercontinental Championship for the King Fahd Cup. The Ivory Coast 1, the USA 2.
Who are you going to call the most this month?
Most?
Good question.
Isabel. With Sprint's new program, The Most, first, you get 20% off whoever you call the most each month. Second, you get 20% off calls to any of the millions of other Sprint customers automatically.
Sprint interrupts this commercial for a special announcement. An independent consumer group has announced that of unrestricted plans, the Most from Sprint often offers the best savings with the fewest restrictions.
What the airlines did for travelers up here, Sheridan is doing for travelers down here. Introducing Sheridan Sure Savers, the revolutionary program that makes travel less expensive. 3 simple rates from 5 to 50% off. The airlines got people traveling again. Now Sheridan makes sure they get a great night's sleep.
We spent $1 billion, so you'll feel like $1 million at Sheraton Hotels.
Call us for Sheridan Sure Savers.
It happens every morning in London, Paris, and Madrid. In Munich, Manchester, Zurich, and Brussels. In Glasgow, Stockholm, Frankfurt, Milan, and Berlin. As the new day arrives, so do we. With over 200 non-stops a week to Europe from across the U.S., American Airlines, the official airline of World Cup '94.
So the Ivory Coast get the second period underway. Both the USA and the Ivory Coast won their respective championships of their continents on penalty shootouts. The USA against Honduras, the Ivory Coast against Ghana. I wonder if we're in for a penalty shootout to settle this third and fourth playoff match. Ben Salah fouling Mikalik there, free kick to the USA. Flying clearance by Clavijo to get it out of play. Clavijo, born in Uruguay, one of the USA's top indoor footballers. Kwame to throw this long ball into the penalty area. Oh, that athletic overhead bicycle kick almost paid off by Traore. Luckily for the US, it took a deflection off the shoulder of Balboa. Vermes. Now, can he put over some sort of telling cross? Yes, he can. Oh, the header by Perez was very, very ordinary indeed. If it had made a firm contact with it, or even angled it slightly, the USA would have had a 3-1 advantage as Traore scoops the ball to his left. Traore. Plenty of men in and around that USA penalty area. Ben Salah goes to the return. Couldn't find a way through, despite his considerable physical presence. Perez Diaby read that one to perfection. Ben Salah. Traore. Brahim. Oh, it took a bit of a bobble here and there. Miola had to be aware of the danger. The USA is still leading by 2-1. We've had nearly 3.5 minutes of the second half. Ben Salah. Not sure Wijnaldum intended that, but his header puts the USA on a forward footing again. Murray on the left-hand side. That's a fair-looking cross too. Perez! It just took a deflection of Lignon as it found its way through to Guamini in the Ivory Coast goal. Ben Salah. Kwame to his right. Traore is a target. Clavijo. Perez. Michalik. Murray. Kobe Jones unable to get anywhere near that overhit pass by Wijnaldum. Diaby. Ben Salah. Perez. Murray. Wijnaldum ran into that challenge of Lignon. Balboa. Oh, that's a poor pass. 2 against 2 at the moment. The USA rather lucky to escape that rather elementary mistake by Balboa. When it comes to the World Cup in '94, more superior teams might be less charitable there. Vermeers, ball has crossed the dead ball line, goal kick. There's Peter Vermeers. Really going through a barren patch when it comes to goals, just one this year. Of course, his place in the national team now severely under threat. Roy Wegley of Blackburn Rovers in England would claim to be a first choice in this USA team, although his performance against Saudi Arabia was rather muted, to say the least. The Ivory Coast 4-0 defeat by Argentina, incidentally, was their heaviest ever. Though they claimed after the game that they learned quite a few lessons playing against a team of Argentina's undoubted class. They weren't too downhearted with the performance. As Traore has it now for the Ivory Coast. Iago. Traore! Well, they must have struck somebody, because from our vantage points, high above the running track in this impressive King Fahd International Stadium, I couldn't see a way that struck a USA defender, but it evidently did, and it's a corner to the Ivory Coast. I just get the impression that the USA are slightly susceptible at these dead ball situations. That time it was Miola with a good catch, but then that really wasn't an intelligent kick by the USA keeper. He's handed possession back to the Ivory Coast. Murray's feet very high there. Free kick to the Ivory Coast. Perez. Perez again. That's a great little ball through to Kobe Jones, who might score another. Well, just for a moment there, the young USA substitute was through again. They really have had a handful of chances now to score, the USA. They are creating goal opportunities, and this was another one here. The first touch was very poor, and that's why Kobe Jones didn't score. Couldn't reproduce that cool finish after half an hour when he scored the USA's second goal. And I think he had a little bit of a rush of blood to his head as he saw the goalkeeper, Guamini, advancing off his goal line. And the chance soon was over. Iago. That really sums up some of the Ivory Coast shooting. It was Lignon, in fact, who cut in field to have that shot. Still, the USA lead the Ivory Coast by 2-1. Kobe Jones, he really has made an impact since coming on as a substitute. Great run by Vermes. Oh, what a goal! It's Wijnaldum. The man who can't stop scoring goals in the Bundesliga brings that goal-scoring expertise to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And Kobe Jones laid on the goal. Oh, what a great shot that was by Wijnaldum. That could settle this game. He was allowed to bring the ball an awful long way, and there wasn't really a challenge from an Ivory Coast defender. Brilliant strike by Eric Wijnaldum. That's his 12th international goal. 3-1 to the USA. Man who played against Bayern Munich on Saturday night and almost won the game apparently with a late goal. Was flown in specially after that match into Riyadh for this competition. There were one or two doubts expressed as whether he'd be fit enough to play after such a long journey following such an important match. But he's answered those critics, hasn't he? Goals then by Balboa, Kobe Jones and Eric Wijnaldum give the USA a 3-1 lead. As Traore has it now for the Ivory Coast. Kwame. Wijnaldum again. Vermes trying to make some space inside the penalty area. That's a great run by Wijnaldum. Just couldn't squeeze the ball through to Vermes. And there really is now a joy about this USA team as they bring the ball forward. Plenty of attacking opportunities. All this without Brian Quinn, of course, who's suspended and can't play in this game. He really would have been first choice for the USA. All this without John Hawkes and Roy Wegley, who've had to return to the English League. Tab Ramos too, who would have been a starter for the USA. And some of the squad members pushing for a place in the final 22 in the USA World Cup squad have a chance to impress. Murray. Vermes. Mignon. Salah.
If you've ever wanted to start a collection of authentic sports memorabilia, or if you just want to pick up some great new collectibles, tune in to the Collector's Showcase on Midwest Sports Channel. We'll have autographed memorabilia from greats like Rod Carew, Hank Aaron, and Mickey Mantle, plus some big surprises. I'm Merrill Reese. Join me and memorabilia expert Barry Lawrence for a brand new edition of the Collector's Showcase, this week on Sports Channel.
First American Games presents all nine of bingo and casino.
Games that are great fun to play and more fun to win.
Opening soon, the new addition to Oneida Bingo and Casino. 750 new real slot machines, 20 new blackjack tables, and a 200-seat restaurant.
G58.
That's entertainment Oneida style.
Bingo!
Oneida Bingo and Casino.
Across from Austin Strobel Airport, Green Bay.
Fitness Quest presents Vanna White.
So, you think you know Easy Glider, huh? This commercial introduced Easy Glider, but with over a dozen quality engineering improvements in the last 5 years, it deserves a second look. Steel rails instead of aluminum. Stronger, sturdier poles. Comfier, superior wheels. Smoother. And when you can burn up to 300 calories in just 20 minutes, nothing fights fat better than the skier that keeps getting better. So look again. Easy Glider still tones all major muscle groups. Today's improved Easy Glider helps control my weight, keeps me toned and firm, and it's a real value. So give it a spin. Call toll-free now.
Call 1-800-238-3100. We'll bill your credit card 3 easy payments of $19.95 each. You get a full 60-day home trial. That's a real Vanna value. So call now, 1-800-238-3100.
The Ivory Coast came to this competition straight from a World Cup qualifier against Botswana, which they won 6-0. They're turned over by Argentina by 4-0, and now they're 3-1 behind against the USA. And Ivory Coast about to make a substitution here. Gagicelli coming on for them, and he replaces Lassina. Gagicelli, the captain of the country. Was somewhat of a surprise to see him left out, although he was bumped and bashed around a little bit by the Argentinians in the first game. 31 years old now, Gagicelli. Played in his 5th African Nations Cup in Dakar. Diaby. Balboa. Bring it clear. We've played nearly an hour of the game. That's a great ball forward to Inalda. Vermes again has made his way forward. Vermes! He just can't score at the moment. He seemed to dive over the ball. Brahim. Traore, that's a good run by Traore. But excellent defensive work by Clavillo to deny him the space to shoot. And Murray does well to get it clear. Gagicelli. '18 is Bergriago, the striker from last season's Cup winners back in the Ivory Coast Africa Sports. It was he who used his left foot illegally with that trip on Caligiuri, free kick. Incidentally, the Ivory Coast next World Cup qualifier will be against Niger later this month. I'm sure they'll find it easier than they've done against Argentina and the USA. Their players made quite an impact after winning the African Nations Cup in Dakar. A two-day national holiday was held, and each player was given a house and £10,000. Not bad. Brahim. The USA leading by 3-1 in this match. Gadjicelli, the substitute. CA with a cross, but Ivory Coast well offside. There is now a certain confidence which has seeped into this USA team, which their 3-1 lead has afforded them. It certainly wasn't evident in the first half, but since that goal by Wijnaldum, just short of the hour mark, they look a very composed team. Quite a different story from the match here against Saudi Arabia, where they were visibly rattled not only by a Saudi Arabian team who were prepared to bring the ball at them quickly and accurately, but also a 70,000 crowd who were screaming for the Saudis to score again and again and again. And if the USA do manage to win this game, at least they can return home on a positive note, as Gadjicelli now has it for the Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast preparing to make another substitution here. Bergri-Yago, one of their strikers, is coming off and is going to be replaced by Cassie, a midfield player who operates on the left-hand side. Bergri-Yago there leaving the field. Now, I presume Cassie will move to the left-hand side. So the Ivory Coast have used both their substitutes permitted in this game. And this is Ben Salah. They trail by 3-1. Brahim. Wasn't an accurate cross towards Ben Salah, who'd made half a yard for himself there. Maybe more. Kwame turns away from Vermes. Of course, the main objective for the Ivory Coast is qualification for the 1994 World Cup. That, of course, won't be a problem for the USA. They'll be appearing in their 4th World Cup in 1994. Appearing there as hosts of the competition. It'll be a whole lot more difficult for the Ivory Coast. They're learning some valuable lessons on their travels. Traoré, Aka Kwame, Gadjicelli. Brahim. Nice ripple of passes by the Ivory Coast. Ben Salah. No great cutting edge to those passes though. And the USA defence has held firm as Perez takes the throw. Now this looks promising. Not for long though. The Ivory Coast really are a maddening side at times. They have so many good touches, so many skillful players, and yet so often one of their clever little moves is spoiled by one inaccurate pass or a wild shot at the end of a clever passing move. I'm sure many would argue that really is the nature of African football. So exciting, so much played off the cuff, but times when it requires the technical side of the game to be adhered to, it's not always possible. Here's Murray. Winelda. Murray again. Completely missed it. Jones. Murray. Oh, that's a great goal again. The USA with their 4th goal of the match. And Bruce Murray, who missed the cross from the left-hand side, made no mistake when it was knocked back in from the right. "67 minutes in, a splendid strike by Bruce Murray. Here's Kobe Jones as he knocks that ball in again, and Murray with that side foot shot hits the back of the Ivory Coast net, and the Ivory Coast, who've now conceded 4 goals against Argentina, have now conceded 4 goals against the USA. Well, they wanted a footballing lesson. They're being handed one here. Balboa. They've conceded 8 goals now in 2 games. And the Ivory Coast now need a goal to get back into this match quickly. Traore trying to win that one in the air. Here's Murray. He'll really be excited about that goal. That's his 18th international goal for his country. Vermes tries to win possession. He knocked over his defender then. It was Diaby, and will be cautioned for that. He's the first USA player to be booked in this match. The USA lead by 4 goals to 1. Gatticelli. It really was a disappointing ball. Throw in to the USA, who really have played well in this game.
There's a hunger inside you.
Come on, 1 inch farther. Let's go. Snickers Bar, the official snack food sponsor of the 1992 U.S. Olympic team. Packed with fresh roasted peanuts, thick milk chocolate, and caramel, Snickers satisfies the hunger inside you.
There's a hunger
Not long ago, the U.S. national team wasn't exactly causing the soccer world to lose any sleep. But that's changed, because now the U.S. has the players they need, they have the coaching they need. Hey, they're even wearing the same equipment as those incredibly good European teams. I mean, what else could these guys possibly need to make soccer really big here in America? That ought to do it.
As a Youth for Understanding International Exchange student, you'll live with the family, go to school, learn a language, and get ready for the world.
Living with the family was really nice. I really enjoyed it. I felt like a part of the family because they treated me so well.
I was thinking away, and then suddenly I was like, well, wait, how do you say that word? And I realized, oh my God, I'm thinking in French.
Get ready for the world. Call 1-800-ARE-YOU-READY and find out more about spending the year, summer, or semester in a YFU high school program abroad.
I'm going back.
Henderson marking his man. Did not get a handle on it. Crossing ball, saved Miola, and he stays over the line.
Tony Miola has done it again.
Hi, I'm Tony Miola, goalkeeper for the United States World Cup team, and these are my friends from the Youth Soccer Association. Youth soccer is for everyone. It's easy to play, it's healthy, and most of all, it's fun. So get involved in the Youth Soccer Association because it's the game for kids.
Yeah!
For more information on your local Youth Soccer Association, call 1-800-4SOCCER.
Argentina were the first team to pierce the Ivory Coast defence since before the African Nations Cup in Dakar, but they've come to Saudi Arabia. They've come up against a very, very accomplished Argentina team, and now against a USA team coming off the back of that defeat against Saudi Arabia. And a penalty to the Ivory Coast. That looked like an obstruction by Balboa, and now the Ivory Coast have a penalty. CA was a man who was fouled, and the referee, with a controversial decision, has awarded a penalty to the Ivory Coast. It was an eccentric decision. The worst that should have resulted in is an indirect free kick for obstruction by Balboa. 4-1 down, the Ivory Coast. Oh, that's a brilliant save by Miola. They all want to get in on the X. And it's still 4-1. And the USA this time have a hero in their goalkeeper, Tony Miola. Well, we've had virtually everything in this game. And we've got an offside now. Diaby's penalty, saved by Miola, who was going the wrong way, flicked up a hand, got the ball onto his crossbar. That, for my money, makes up for the mistake he made earlier on in the game when he allowed Traore's shot to squeeze past him. Well, several of the USA players will remember this match for different reasons. Kobe Jones, who scored one and made 2 goals. Winalda, who scored a quite outstanding goal for the USA. Bruce Murray, 2 on target. Balboa, who gave the USA the lead with that firm header and gave away a penalty, which his goalkeeper Miola saved. Quite a few stories for the folks back home. And once again, the quality of the cross nowhere near good enough to trouble the USA defence. Gaggicelli. And at last, Dominic Kinnear, this midfield player for the USA, gets a chance to come on. It's Peter Vermes, who really has worked hard for a goal but not managed to achieve one. Here's a man coming off. Dominic Kinnear had a spell with St Johnstone in Scotland. And now playing at the heart of the USA midfield. "4-1 to the USA. Kobe Jones with the defensive duties. There's Eric Winalda, who carried on his fine goal-scoring exploits in Saudi Arabia. Incidentally, that's only the second time this year that the USA have managed to score 4 goals in a match. They did score 5 against China back in April in a match played in California. Things really haven't gone their way in the last few months. Not since May and that win against the Republic of Ireland. But they'll look back to this game against the Ivory Coast with a good deal of satisfaction. Fourteen and a half minutes to go to the final whistle. Offside against the Ivory Coast. There's a good deal of naivety about this Ivory Coast team. And it's something they're going to have to put right if they want to qualify for the World Cup in 1994. Winalda, Murray in support. Ball played too hard in front of him. Kobe Jones wins this one back for the USA. Traore. I'm not sure that was going in, but that is, and that's a goal back for the Ivory Coast. That really was a well-hit shot by Sia. And that just might perk up the USA for the final 13 minutes of the game. CA came on as a substitute to score the winning goal against Zambia in the quarterfinals of the African Nations Cup. It really has a fearsome shot. (4-2). Well, it's been a match littered with goals, and after Miola had made that excellent save, the accuracy of the shot of CA was the important factor in that goal, because Miola was coming across to cover that ground. So, are the Ivory Coast to mount a late show? Napa gets it out of play. It's a country where it doesn't rain much, but it's rained goals in this tournament. That's Chris Henderson still nursing that head wound from the first half. Miola gets it at a second attempt. Yes, we've certainly had goals in this tournament. 3 in the first match as the Saudi Arabian team crushed the USA 3-0. 4 in the second as Argentina put on a show. Now 6 goals in this game, with the USA leading by 4-2 against the Ivory Coast. Maybe we should expect 10 in the final. Winalda. Kinnear. Just couldn't get there. Diaby, who had that penalty saved by Miola. It didn't look that important when that penalty was awarded, but Miola's save looks very important now. At 4-3, it really would be a quite different game. The Ivory Coast still have a 2-goal deficit to make up in the final 10 minutes of the match. Oh, Diaby has found half a yard. Ben Salah just can't win the ball. And there are some tired players out there. Kinnear. Perez almost stole that one back for the USA. Kwame. Perez, good close control by him. Perez plays a lot of indoor football in the USA, and his close control is quite exceptional. This linesman on the near side has given the Ivory Coast a lot of grief over the last 18 minutes or so.
What does $1 billion worth of service feel like? Sheridan, it feels like this.
We spent $1 billion, so you'll feel like $1 million at Sheraton Hotels.
Who are you going to call the most this month?
Most? Good question.
Isabel. With Sprint's new program, The Most, first, you get 20% off whoever you call the most each month. Second, you get 20% off calls to any of the millions of other Sprint customers automatically.
Sprint interrupts this commercial for a special announcement. An independent consumer group has announced that of unrestricted plans, The Most from Sprint often offers the best savings with the fewest restrictions.
If you've ever struggled with a handheld trimmer, you'll love this revolutionary new kind of trimmer on wheels. Just look how easy it rolls on those 2 big wheels and glides in any direction on this front-mounted mobile. It's perfect for trimming around rocks, along fences, buildings, sidewalks, and in all those hard-to-reach corners. The new DR is also a mower. It cuts tall grass, waist-high weeds, even wet grass and rough areas with never-before ease. There's no steel blade to bend or dull. You'll just love what the DR trimmer mower can do for you and your property. A big color catalog is just $2. Call toll-free 1-800-238-3100. That's 1-800-238-3100 for your big color catalog all about the revolutionary DR trimmer on wheels.
Balboa will take this free kick. Winalda, beaten in the air. 2 is Kwame. Another goal now for the Ivory Coast, and we could have an interesting finish. Traore. Cassie. Napa gets it clear, and some of that confidence which the USA were managing to strut in the opening 20 minutes of the second half seems to have evaporated now on this very warm evening in Riyadh. And if anything, the athleticism of the Ivory Coast is becoming more evident the longer the game goes on. But the USA remain dangerous on these counter thrusts. And there'll be a stoppage here for an injury, I think, to Mikalik on the far side. Certainly he clashed shoulders with Brahim. So Wijnaldum, in fact, who was injured, but he seems to be okay. Kinnear is a target man for this long free kick. But Milutinovic still urging his side forward for another goal. Perez. Murray! They've got it! 5-2! Murray's second of the game. And surely now the threat of the Ivory Coast has been ended. Two goals now for Bruce Murray. And that really was an accurate and powerful header. He was prepared to put his head where others might have thought better of it. But what a good cross by Hugo Perez. And here's Murray again, who's on his hat-trick, remember. Wijnaldum gamely chasing that ball deep inside lost cause territory. But he has it now, Wijnaldum now. Can he finish? He's offside. It wouldn't matter anyway. Maybe the Ivory Coast deserve just a touch of sympathy. They've gamely chased this match. And at 4-2, even with quarter of an hour left, they look likely to cause the USA problems. But as they pushed forward in numbers, they were bound to leave holes at the back, which was exploited by Perez. And we've now got 7 goals in this match.
It happens every morning in London, Paris, and Madrid. In Munich, Manchester, Zurich, and Brussels. In Glasgow, Stockholm, Frankfurt, Milan, and Berlin. As the new day arrives, so do we. With over 200 non-stops a week to Europe from across the U.S., American Airlines, the official airline of World Cup '94.
It's the first week of spring training, and a bunch of nice old ladies show up.
Say cheese. Wonderful.
Nice, until we started working out.
You call that exercising?
Hey, Grandma, I don't see you doing it.
We finished?
In your dreams, homeboy.
Finally. Cold butts for everybody.
Attaboy.
Now for an important announcement.
If you've always wanted a Nordic Track ski exerciser but thought it was too expensive, now's your time to act. Nordic Track's proven advantages of total body aerobic conditioning, permanent weight loss, and better health don't come with an outrageous price tag. Priced at just $499.95, this Excel is Nordic Track's original model. It features our famous patented flywheel and one-way clutch that provides smooth continuity of motion, just like cross-country skiing. That's why Nordic Track is known as the world's best aerobic exerciser. Or for only $399.95, you can have the Nordic Track Sequoia with a natural redwood finish. And for as little as $299.95, you can have this sleek Nordic Track Challenger in your home. Remember, you can afford a Nordic Track. Why settle for anything less? Plus, if you call now, ask about our free electronics offer. Call today for a 30-day in-home trial. There is a Nordic track that's priced right for you.
5-2 to the USA. Four and a half minutes to go. Ben Sella. Brahim. Gagicelli. Once again, the African beat is evident in the Ivory Coast football as they swarm towards the US goal. Traore. Cassie. Away by Balboa. Murray. Diaby. Brahim. Kwame. Ben Salah. Kinnear picks it up on the edge of his own penalty area. Caligiuri. Perez now. Kinnear. Murray now, can he keep that one in play? It was always going to be just a wee bit beyond him.
Introducing ProMaster Plus, the professional strength muscle developer, used by the best in the business and the best in business. ProMaster Plus, the dynamic resistance engineered into this high-tension steel coil, challenges more of your muscle fibers. You build strength, definition, and explosive muscle power quickly and efficiently. ProMaster Plus, from the fitness experts who brought you ThighMaster. Call and get yours now.
CA has already scored one goal. He tried to worm his way through for another. Oh, Miola's in trouble here. He had to be alert to the danger as the ball spun across looking for Traore on the back post. They're still pushing for goals with only 2 minutes to go to the full-time whistle. 5-2 behind. They're still arguing and scrapping this one out as if it was a 0-0 draw at the present time. Ben Salah with an inaccurate header, but he was always under pressure as he climbed for that one. All smiles from Eric Wijnaldum, his side very close now to a 5-2 victory. Only the second time in 1992 they've hit 5 goals. Not long now for the USA to hang on. We've just entered stoppage time at the end of the game. Kwame. Still, the Ivory Coast prepared to come forward. That's a clever little layoff there by Ben Salah. And that's the last action of a highly entertaining game, which we've seen 7 goals. The USA have run out by 5 goals to 2, the winners of the match in this 3rd and 4th place playoff game in the Intercontinental Championship for the King Fahd Club. They return to the USA in high spirits after this performance. They were 2-1 ahead at the interval with goals by Balboa and Kobe Jones, the first half substitutes. Traore had made it 1-1 for the Ivory Coast, scooping home a loose ball inside the USA penalty area to beat Miola. But in the second half, the USA pressed their advantage. Bruce Murray weighed in with 2 goals. Wijnaldum with a quite exceptional strike, scored 1-2. Diaby managed to see his penalty turned onto his own crossbar by Tony Miola. And CA with a splendid volley pulled it back to 4-2. But this is a night for the USA to cherish. It was all very, very different just a few days ago against Saudi Arabia when they lost by 3-0. But the USA can take great satisfaction from this performance and this result. The final score, the USA 5, Ivory Coast 2.
Follow Ivy League football with Cornell's Big Red, Saturday on Sports Channel America.
You're watching today's WCCO television with Brad Good and Amy.